Hey there, it's Jenna from the Intern Hustle, and in this video, I'm shining some light on an awesome resource for students. I'm always getting questions about where to find internships. Specifically these days, where to find remote internships. Well, what if I told you that I found a place where you can find paid remote internships? I recently interviewed Ahva Sadeghi. She is the co-founder and CEO of Symba, a venture-backed and all-female founded tech startup focused on the future of work. Ahva is an economist and researcher focused on remote work and workforce development. Prior to launching Symba, she worked at the U.S. Department of State in the Human Rights Bureau and completed a civil rights fellowship with Congressman John Lewis in Atlanta. She was recently named Forbes 30 Under 30 and a Global Entrepreneur Scholar by the U.S. Department of State. Ahva completed her graduate studies at the London School of Economics and Political Science and received her BA from the University of Arizona Honors College. She is a passionate social entrepreneur, and I'm excited to share our conversation with you. I've had the pleasure of collaborating with Ahva and the Symba team the past couple of months to create even more valuable internship content for students. I will link to those resources in the description below this video so that you can check them out later. In the meantime, hit that like button if you're ready to dive into this interview with Ahva and learn more about Symba's remote internship platform. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified for new videos every single week on this channel. Hey there, I'm Jenna Ryan from the InternHustle.com, and this is Initiative Muscle Monday, helping you to start each week with an intentional step toward a successful future. Let's do this. Hi, Ahva. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to have you here, and I know that everyone part of the Intern Hustle community is going to love what you have to say. Would you just take a moment to briefly introduce yourself and a little bit about Symba?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me here. Our whole team at Symba is such a big fan of the Intern Hustle, and we follow the work that you do. And we're even, feeling very lucky to have you spotlighted on Symba as well. And so Symba is the leading remote internship platform. I am Ahva Sadeghi, the co-founder and CEO. And I am a first-generation Iranian-American woman. My background is in social impact and economics, and I was one of the first remote interns at State Departments. I became very, very passionate about remote internships and how they can create access to the workforce.
That's awesome. And I know that you had, was it 6 internships while you were in school? So 6 internships, I think 4 of them being remote. And that was really before remote internships were kind of the norm. So how did you go about securing those remote opportunities for yourself? How did that come about?
Of course. So the idea of a remote internship was totally radical before this year in 2020. And so even when we started Symba, people were like, what are you talking about? Internships are all about being in person. And so, backtrack to my own experience. When I was in college, I did my undergrad at the University of Arizona in Tucson, hence the saguaro cactus behind me. And so, as you might imagine, I was interested in international relations and political science. All the internships I wanted were not in my backyard. They were in DC, in New York, in really big cities. And so I felt pretty stuck. And my sophomore year of college, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State and launched this initiative called the Virtual Student Foreign Service. And my mentor forwarded them an email and was like, Ahva, you should apply. And so I applied. Actually didn't get it. And I sent him an email right away saying, I really wanted this internship. What should I do to be ready next year? And they said, Ahva, we created a spot for you. Well, they created an imaginary spot because it's a remote internship. There's no office desk. There's none of that needed. So it was, it was an amazing experience. And after that, I realized I don't need a desk. I can work from anywhere remotely. And so I started reaching out to people that I really admire on LinkedIn and saying, I would love to be your remote intern. I can translate Farsi for you. I can do research on human rights, on economics, and you don't need to give me a desk. And 9 times out of 10, they would say yes. And I would reach out even if there wasn't an internship posting. I would just reach out to the individual leader I wanted to work with and get to know as a mentor. So I really paved my own way in that sense.
That's awesome. And I love what you're talking about with just how you reached out and said, here's the value I can add. That's something I talk to students about all the time. It's not about asking for something at first. It's first showing them what value you can add to them, which is so important. So I love that you did that. And I also love the rejection story, right? It wasn't a yes at first, but you were persistent. And that's another thing I tell students is you have to be persistent. That's what really wins. And you could have easily just been like, you know what? They said no. And moved on, but look at what doors that opened for you just because you actually followed up with them and said that you wanted to stay in touch, which I think is just a wonderful lesson. So that's great for all the students watching to learn from that and see such a success story. So thank you for sharing that. So I also happen to know that, through these remote internships, there's probably challenges that you come across, right? Especially when you're building this kind of as the first remote intern in some of these scenarios and helping the company define what that is. So can you tell me maybe about a big challenge that you faced as a remote intern and how that helped shape what you're building with Symba today?
Definitely. So keep in mind, I was a remote intern in 2012, right? Slack wasn't there. Like there were so many tools we use now to build the sense of like community online that just didn't exist. It was really only email and phone calls. And I was working with the federal government. So it was also, at another level of bureaucracy on top of that. And, so one of my biggest challenge was shining my personality through. How do I really gauge that if I'm only being able to use email and I'm submitting deliverables and having, very few calls? So what I did proactively was ask if we could do feedback sessions over the phone rather than through email. And so I started to build more of an engaging personal experience. One thing I encourage teams and remote interns to do is schedule virtual coffees with others. So, taking it up a notch, how can you build in that sense of, engagement online? And now today there's many, many tools that you can use to leverage that.
Yeah, that's great. And so let's talk about Symba a little bit, because I know that your experiences have influenced Symba. And so tell me a little bit about Symba's origin story and how and when you launched it.
Of course, I'm happy to share more about Symba. And so we launched Symba in 2017. And at the time, I was a fellow with Congressman John Lewis in Atlanta. And I just graduated from my graduate degree in London. And I was working with him in his office. And we were all tasked with creating some sort of action project. How are we going to address inequality in the United States? And I felt that with my 6 unpaid internships, there was a problem. Who could access the workforce unless they could, really work for free or had the network in place? And so I felt like we want to change what the C-suite looks like. We have to start at the internship level. And so with Symba, the idea behind it started with Congressman John Lewis. We started doing a lot of research, and we actually piloted with this U.S. Department of State in D.C. And that's kind of how we, kicked things off. And after a successful pilot, I left my job. My co-founder Nikita left her job, and we got into an accelerator program in San Francisco and got funding. And so the team has started to grow from there. But it was crazy journey. When we got started, everyone told us remote internships would never happen. Like that is impossible. Internships are all about being in person.
And you're like, no, I did some in college myself. We can do this. That's great. It's a wonderful story. And tell me, what is the name Symba? Where does that come from?
Yes, I should have mentioned that already. Symba for symbiotic relationships. So in a true internship experience, right, the intern as well as the manager should be gaining value, the organization. So symbiosis.
That's great. And it leads perfectly into the next question I had for you, which I think one of the things I love about Symba is how you're making internships more accessible for both the students and the companies who are putting them together, right? And your mission is to open up the workforce. That's what I gather from all your messaging out there is you really want to open up the workforce. So tell me more about what that means to you and the Symba team, opening the workforce.
Kind of along those lines of what I was mentioning is, I did 6 unpaid internships, and seeing the lack of diversity in the room every time I did an unpaid internship was alarming to me. But I realized, going back to who could work for free, who had access to these pathways and to these opportunities. So for us, opening up the workforce means that if you are spending so much money on a degree in college, you should be able to get real-time experience in that sector and in that field, because that's really when you understand what you want to invest your career into doing. That's why the internships are so important. They're a test run at your future career that you're going to be spending the majority of your life doing. So for us, opening up the workforce is all about new pathways to opportunity, and really helping teams scale their operations. When we started Symba, we thought we were going to be a marketplace. We thought, okay, great, brilliant students, really cool companies, let's bring them together. What we realized when we did a lot of research with talent leaders was that it is so much work to scale an internship program, that they spend anywhere, from $50,000 to $100,000 on each intern to make sure they have a great experience, that it's not as scalable as we thought. We told them, why don't you just double your program so more students have opportunities? And they said, well, Symba team, it's not that easy. Yeah. And so what Symba does is it makes it that easy. It tries to make it turnkey so that teams can scale. About 60% of our clients are scaling, and some of them are scaling their programs by over 600% on Symba. So that means more opportunities for more students everywhere.
That's great. And I think I love what you said about, the insight that it's not that easy for a company to scale normally, right? And so that's something for students to keep in mind, I think, when they're reaching out to employers and, trying to find internships for themselves. Again, it's how can you add value and how can you make it easy for them to say yes to you? And keep in mind that it's a lot of work for them too. And so, just working with them, I think is super important. So if a student is, interested in, checking Symba out and, they want to get involved in using Symba, how can they use it to search for paid remote internship opportunities themselves?
Cool. So they can check us out at symba.io, and it's Symba spelled SYMBA.io. And you scroll down and you can just click register as an intern, and you're prompted there to fill out a profile, and you are welcome to the Symba community. And what that means is you have access to the Symba Slate, which Jenna, you're referring to, is the only paid remote internship board out there. So we source these opportunities for students to make sure they're paid, to make sure that they're remote and accessible for all students, and we aggregate them. We try to have at least 100 of them live at a given time. And then our team also designs newsletters for all of the students in the community to access best resources, best tips and advice. And you could even be during an internship experience, not even sourcing for one, but we'd love to help you throughout the entire remote internship journey. So strongly encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, and I get those emails, so I can say that they definitely do contain a lot of great resources for students. So definitely check out Symba, check out Symba Slate. I know this is a question I get from students all the time, is where can I look for paid remote opportunities? So I'm happy to provide a resource for them with you guys. And I also happen to have students from all over the world. So the community for the Intern Hustle is made up of students all over the world. I actually pulled the data, I think, the end of 2020, and it was over 80 countries, which is awesome. But I get a lot of questions from students who are outside of the United States looking for opportunities to intern in the United States. And so are there opportunities within Symba for international students? How does that work? How do you guys work with them?
Definitely. And we actually have a lot of students part of the Symba community that are international, because, one of the exciting things that when we started out Symba, we were all, thrilled about was the opportunity for remote engagement. So I did my graduate studies in London, and I still was able to do a remote internship in the United States. So you can, transcend and do a lot of great opportunities. And we do believe that a lot of the legal ramifications are opening up to create more opportunities for international remote talent opportunities. So we definitely do source, and we actually have a star and a check mark just for international opportunities on Symba. But I also strongly encourage students to kind of leverage their career services organizations, any resource groups they're a part of, to really understand your rights and what types of citizenship and visa status you can be granted to do an internship and to have access to some of those opportunities as well.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you. And I love that you guys actually market in the Symba platform so that it's like very clear to those students, which is great. So talking a little bit more about Symba, and I'd love to just know, what's next for you guys? What are you looking forward to the most as you scale? Because I know you experienced huge growth in 2020, as you were saying, when the whole world was like, we have to figure out remote internships. So what's next? Like, what's in your plan, and what are you most looking forward to?
So what's next for Symba? This year, we want to scale to 25,000 internship experiences designed by us. And then we want to hit 1 million. That's our ultimate goal for Symba, is we want to scale up and create 1 million new internship opportunities with organizations that we work with internationally, so that we can make sure everyone's having a great experience both the organization as well as the students. And so our whole team is really rallied around that. We just finished our first round of venture capital as an all-female founded,
That's
thank you, and
awesome.
female coded team. So we're all kind of on a high note, really excited about what this year holds for us and preparing both students and job seekers as well as organizations for what the future of work actually looks like. So a lot of updates will be coming out. We're going to focus on not just internships, but also apprenticeship, mentorship programs, and really expand using remote work as a pathway.
And again, for students watching, Symba.io is the website. I will link it in the description below this video as well. You can also find them on Instagram at Symba.io. Ahva, are there any other places you want to point students to, or are those the main ones that you are directing people to these days?
Those are the main ones we're directing. We're actually, stay tuned, we're launching a new site in a couple of weeks. But the website URL will stay the same, Symba.io. And so we're excited to share you some new resources and a new look and feel to Symba.
I can't wait to check it out. And I know your co-founder, Nikita, is probably busy at work on a lot of those things because she runs the tech side, right? So she's been busy, I'm sure, which is wonderful. So I have one final question I love to close out every interview with. And the question is, what's your party trick? But I'll kind of give you a little bit of a, just, what does that mean? So a party trick for me is, think of it as your glorified fun fact, right? Something that has become a part of your personal brand, something unique that people recognize for you, that you stand out. It doesn't have to be anything super serious and professional, and it doesn't have to be anything super ridiculous. When I say party trick, it doesn't have to be like a crazy party trick. But that's just my fun way of, learning a little bit about people and a fun fact, if you will. So if you had to answer that question, what would you say is your party trick?
Well, I would say for a party trick, I can open up, a beer can using another one. But I think a fun fact more about me is my name, Ahva, rhymes with like avocado. And so I have a bunch of avocado stuff. And actually these are my AirPods. They're like,
that's amazing.
Avocado themed, and my Instagram is avocados. So that's my fun thing that people remember me by.
That's so fun. And my husband and I were buying a baby gift for someone recently, and they own a Mexican restaurant here in New Orleans. And so we were trying to do like a taco theme and all that, but we ended up finding this stuffed avocado that was like a cat, but also an avocado called a catacado. So if you ever come across that, you probably need that too.
I probably have too much avocado stuff, but it's a great theme.
It was great. Well, Ahva, thank you so much for joining me today and just sharing your story and more about Symba with the Intern Hustle community. I know people are going to find this super valuable, and I'm really excited for them to watch this. So students, if you are looking for paid remote internship opportunities, if you just want some great resources, please be sure to check out Symba at Symba.io. And Ahva, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenna. It's so wonderful to be here with you all. Thank you again.